Okay, so let's take a look at then some of the decision-making biases that can cloud our judgment when we are depending on an intuitive type of decision making. And these are kind of shortcuts that we make in our daily lives. So one of them is called a confirmation bias. And what is a confirmation bias? Is that we seek information that confirms our current existing thoughts or decisions. So let's say I've bought a specific product, a phone, and I will look for only for information that supports that it's a great product. I won't look for any information that says that it's negative. Okay? Or even when before I make a decision, let's say I have my heart set out on buying a BMW, I'll only look for information that supports that it's a great product, it's great to drive, and I will not look at, oh, hey, other information that maintaining it is expensive, that it's not as reliable. So I will try to seek information that supports my kind of decision. Overconfidence bias is that we tend to overestimate our skills compared to others, so that we're good at what we do. So if, let's say, I get a publication, I become overconfident in my skills. I'm a really good publisher. I've got 2, 3 articles under my belt. I start becoming a bit more careless because I think that I'm very good, and this next manuscript that I'm going to send will be amazing. And this leads people to, perform less over the long run because they are overconfident in what they are doing. They will also make bad decisions. One good example is the one in your book is about the BP spill. So BP was overconfident about how good of a job that they were doing, and they ignored any kind of so BP ignored any kind of red signals that there were spills, there were possible issues with the oil rig under examination, and ultimately that oil rig had issues with them and it led to spills in the Gulf. So this is the overconfidence bias. The next type of bias that we talk about is called availability bias, is we tend to rely on information available to us to make that a certain judgment or decision. So a lot of people would make the judgment that the Middle East is a very unstable area, that because of the negative information that they see. They do not see any positive information about this, and therefore people will think that any country in the Middle East is a war zone, which is not true. It is a lot safer, let's say, in some parts of Egypt than other countries or towns around here in the United States, simply because all of the information we see is negative. Okay, we also tend to have what we call a representative bias, is we depend on stereotypes when we make decisions. And so if we might have a stereotype that all women are, or all men are not caring. Okay, so that is a stereotype that we might have. So when we are trying to hire a new person, say a nurse, and we see certain males and females applying, we might discount males because the stereotype that we had is that females are more caring. So that's a representative bias that we might have. There's also what we call an anchoring bias. An anchoring bias is we tend to be affected by the first piece of information that we have. So for example, if you go out to buy a product, let's say, and you find that its price is $100. Any judgment that you have of any other products will be based on that $100. So if someone tells you, oh, I'll sell you that same product for $80, you'll think it's cheap because the first retailer that you went told you $100, right? However, if you had gone to the first retailer and he had tell you, let's say the price is $80, and then you might not know what, that price is high or low. And then you went to another retailer and told you 100, oh, you'll think it's expensive. So we tend to judge things based on the piece of first piece of information that we encounter. Hindsight bias is that we tend to be overconfident about past events. Right? So let's say you've been able to predict that the weather tomorrow will be great. Okay, so there's no way that you could have predicted that in hindsight, because weather is unpredictable. It's something that probability is very hard to predict. So people say, "Oh, I can predict, let's say, weather," and they'll tend to depend on inaccurate kind of information to make their judgments. Finally, or not finally, there are two types of biases: framing and escalation of commitment. Framing means we tend to look at information differently based on how it is posed. So if I tell you something is 15% lean, is the same as I tell you if, let's say, that same meat is 15% fat, or it's 85% lean. People are more receptive to 85% lean because it's more positive information than 15% fat, right? So how you frame things might affect your decision. So if you tell someone, if you don't make any mistakes, I will, give you a promotion. That is framing it in a negative way. Okay? If you do everything right, I'll give you a promotion. That is a more positive way. And there are certain conditions under which people perform well under, negative versus positive framing. But in general, people perform better in the long run under positive framing. Escalation of commitment is we often try to stick to ineffective courses of action, even if, repeatedly we've shown that it's not a good idea. So let's say you have picked a specific car, and your decision is an incorrect one because, as I said with the BMW, it would leave you in a really bad financial position. You're still sticking to it. You still think it's a very good decision. You don't want to go back, because if you go back and sell it, that will be admitting that you initially made a wrong decision. And you'll keep on, committing yourself to it, paying all of the expenses that come with it, the monthly payment, the different maintenance expenses, and that's what we call escalation of commitment. Let's test our knowledge. Century-wide corporation invested $1 million to fix a computer system, despite severe technical problems with placeable system not being user-friendly. So it's trying to fix a system that's being repeatedly, being complained about. Decision maker was likely influenced by which judgmental bias? Is it framing, hindsight, escalation of commitment, representative, or anchoring? If you said C, escalation of commitment, true. So they're still being committed to the same system despite it being not a good one.